Thank you very much, Lasker Hirlock. I, at the outset, want to congratulate the Labour Party and very specifically Senator Wall on the legislation, on the proposed legislation. I know that Senator Wall has a huge passion for this, that he's very sincere about it, and he has worked very hard on it, and he has done the House a lot of service in doing that, and he has certainly done the party and the country some good in that, and it's very important. So well done to him. I also want to salute very genuinely Minister Brown's real commitment on this one. He's consistently committed and consistently courageous on it. And I'm very impressed with the fact that if I ever meet Minister Brown on the corridor, because he identifies me as one of the people who has consistently spoken on this issue over the last couple of years, that he will brief me without soliciting this, asking him, he will brief me on where the legislation's at and what's happening. And I appreciate that. And it's just a sign of his genuine passion for the subject. So we're very fortunate in that regard. Now, I personally support the legislation wholeheartedly, and on a personal level I think we should be banning all advertising, and would support your view on that, Senator Wall. Now, to say a few general things, we all know people with an addiction problem, with gambling addiction problems. We know them in our communities. Everybody else knows them, and public reps know more of them than most. And you can say that there are features. There's family breakdown, financial ruin, depression, job loss, psychiatric illness, ADHD, bipolar, and often suicide or attempted suicide. So this is a very bleak picture, but it's a real picture, and we know them in our communities. And while these are the stark examples, we also well know that in every one of our communities there are a number of people who are less affected but very seriously affected. Now, obviously there's been a very big increase during COVID, and the smartphones are a real issue now. Then that's why Senator Mullen mentioned bookie shops closing. That's why they're closing. It's all moved to the iPhones. It's highly addictive gambling products here, designed by people with mathematical geniuses to make them attractive, to make them seductive. We have free bets, which I think should be eliminated too, and they're wrong, but they're there to entice people in. Young people develop their addiction. And this has all obviously risen during COVID. It's interesting that Ireland is the third country in the world on per capita spend on gambling. That's a stark statistic. As I said, the products are very addictive. I think we need a limit on spending. Personally, I think that's what should be done in the future. I think it should not be possible on ordinary credit cards. It should be only on debit cards. I think there should be the token bets should be done away with. I really think, and I believe this minister has the courage for it and has been doing it, I think we should go at it fully, because we'll become as unpopular for doing it half right as for fully right, and we might as well go at it right. So, but these products, now there's an interesting one, Colin O'Gara is a clinical professor of clinical psychiatry at UCD. He says that 5% of the people that are affected. He says that up to 250,000 people suffer financial difficulty, relationship, etc., because of gambling. And as I said, the general statistic one cited by Senator Wall is that 40,000 people roughly in the country are in the problem gambling zone. And that's a very, very serious situation. And like my colleague, Senator Carrick, earlier, it's important to state when we're speaking that we will be supporting the legislation. My party will not be standing against such objectively correct legislation. I support the idea of a fund from the industry, Minister. I think the industry should subvent the treatment, not to their own charity, to objective sources, but to an objective source that the money would go to the state to assist with the gambling addiction. There's a problem that the HSE now need to recognise gambling addiction and deal with it, and as a specific illness, a specific condition. I obviously think we have to take on the advertising in a big way and the pop-up ads. The amount of ads during the European Championships, the soccer games recently were beyond reason, and they were all the time. Last week, as we all said, through Cheltenham. So we need to deal with this. I mean, this is a real problem. Obviously, there are so many facets. The advertising's a big one and has to be taken on, and that's the substance of this bill, and I think there's no escaping that reality. And we'll find state support. We're finding state support for everything these days. Let's find state support for the sports that will lose money over it. So that's one facet of it. The second thing that we should be fit to do is deal with spending limits, with the type of credit cards being used, with all of that sort of thing. And I believe parallel with that, the fund from the industry to support. I believe also the health system should address and have a specific addressing of the problem gambling people and their difficulties. And I believe we need to develop educational products around this. There has to be education in our schools and right through. So it's a very complex and broad question, and of course none of us are naive enough, and I know the Minister certainly isn't, or Senator Wall, to think that we're going to eliminate problem gambling through this. We're not, but we're going to save a lot of people, a lot of families, a lot of individuals. A lot of hardship and suffering could be avoided by this. While we'll not wipe out the problem, that would be naive. We won't be doing that, but we will be alleviating pain, suffering and hardship, not only for the people with the gambling product themselves, but the people with whom they come into contact, their entire families, societies and communities. So, thank you, Lasker Hurlick, and we leave it like that. I don't want to interrupt. This is too important an issue to interrupt a proper response from the Minister on. Thank you.